Hi everyone, I'm Lao Gao, and we're still recording while standing today. 2 weeks ago, we did a live stream about our 5-year membership's future. We've launched an official Line account and are offering a binding activity for 101 Taitu star people. I saw some comments asking why our channel members can't bind. It's not that they can't. The channel member binding feature isn't ready yet. I'm working hard to make it available soon, so channel members will still have great benefits. I hope you're all looking forward to it. Now today, I have a case to share with you all. Recently, I've seen a lot of news about juvenile crime, which seems to be increasing in recent years. However, it's not that there weren't many cases before. Similar news can be found in countries like China, the United States, and Japan. Today, I'll tell you about a recent juvenile crime that happened in the United States. This incident occurred the year before last and caused quite a stir at the time. It was on July 31st, 2022, at 6 in the morning when a 17-year-old American high school girl was driving a car. She was operating a vehicle with her boyfriend and an acquaintance of his, two young men at a velocity of 160 kilometers per hour when they collided with the exterior wall of a structure. The two young men inside the automobile perished immediately, and the entire vehicle was completely destroyed. The girl, however, astonishingly survived and made a full recovery within a few months without any enduring consequences. Nevertheless, a subsequent blood test disclosed that there was alcohol present in her system, indicating that this was a catastrophe caused by underage intoxicated driving. At that time, when the girl learned that her two friends had died in the car, she was overwhelmed with guilt and cried uncontrollably. The girl appeared to be very well behaved and was only 17 years old. After the accident, the mother of one of the deceased even comforted the girl, saying that it was an unavoidable tragedy and that it was fortunate she survived. However, what no one expected was that later investigations revealed this accident was not an accident at all, but a murder disguised as one. The person who orchestrated and carried out this murder was this seemingly pitiful girl who intended to kill one of the boys in the car, though not the other. The intention was to eliminate one of the young men and bring the other one along. Her entire scheme was ingeniously crafted and meticulously precise, carried out with decisiveness and a chilling lack of emotion. When the truth was unveiled, it seemed as though she was a professional assassin, sending shivers down one's spine. Following the revelation of the case, it wasn't confined to America alone. Numerous media outlets globally reported on it, creating a massive sensation. Now let's delve into what precisely transpired. What drove this young girl to feel compelled to end the life of one of the boys? The girl's name is Mackenzie Shella. Let's call her Mackenzie. She was born in 2004, and at the time of the accident in July 2022, she was just shy of 18 years old. She has an older sister who is 2 years older than her. Her father is a company owner, so she grew up in a very good family environment. As the youngest daughter in a wealthy family, Mackenzie received all kinds of love and care from her parents from a young age, especially in terms of material things. She could basically get anything she wanted. In other words, from her perspective, there was almost nothing she couldn't have. However, even within such a privileged and indulgent environment, Mackenzie did not become conceited or act recklessly. In her parents' eyes, she was consistently a well-behaved and sensible child, which only made them adore her even more. Yet there was one aspect her parents were unaware of. This child was not entirely as she seemed to them. At home, she was quiet and well-mannered, clearly a good girl, but once she stepped out, when she's not in the presence of her parents, she suddenly transforms into a rebellious young woman who smokes, consumes alcohol, and even engages in drug use. Essentially, at home, she presents herself as a proper lady, but once she steps out, she turns into a rebellious young woman. Upon entering high school, she encountered a handsome boy named Dominic Russo, who was slightly less than 3 years her senior, approximately 2 years older. We'll simply refer to him as Russo. Russo hails from a large family with 6 siblings, and the family environment is very loving and consistently filled with affection. Russo appears quite stylish in photographs, yet he is not a troublemaker. His favorite pastime is reading, which indicates he might be a somewhat reserved and introspective young gentleman. Nonetheless, similar to all young individuals, he also takes pleasure in attending social gatherings and going out. When Russo initially encountered Mackenzie, he was captivated by her innocent and refined demeanor. Consequently, the two swiftly began dating, and it wasn't long before they were introduced to each other's parents, indicating they were genuinely committed and contemplating marriage. However, after spending a period of time together, later on, Russo seemed to discover an issue, and this issue actually had little to do with drug use. For Russo, the biggest problem with this girl was that she was too clingy. The two of them had to be together all the time. Even if they couldn't be together physically, they had to be together in time. What does that mean? She would keep calling and texting you, asking where you are and what you're doing. This isn't an uncommon phenomenon among lovers. I think many people have gone through such a phase. Indeed, some girls or boys can be like this, especially those with a strong sense of possessiveness. As a result, Russo was indeed scared away by Mackenzie. After discovering that the other person's need for control and possessiveness was too strong, he began to gradually distance himself from the girl. The more Lou resisted, the more aggressive the girl became. Eventually, Lou couldn't take it anymore and decided to break up. This outcome was something Mackenzie couldn't accept. Mackenzie felt that there was nothing wrong between them, thinking, I just want to be with you, what's the problem? Subsequently, Mackenzie did a series of things that really frightened Lou. He would follow Lou every day and then knock on his door at night saying, open the door and let me in. When Lou refused to open the door, Mackenzie threatened, then I'll scratch your car. So, Because Luso was very scared and didn't dare to open the door, he recorded all the interactions between the two of them at that time on his phone. The girl was shouting outside the door that she was going to record a video wanting to keep evidence. In case something happened in the future, like if the car really got scratched, there would be some evidence, which would be better. In short, the girl tried every possible way to reconcile with her boyfriend, but her methods were very aggressive, involving coercion and intimidation. In the end, Luso was determined not to get back together, thinking, how could I be with someone so terrifying? After realizing there was no chance, the girl left a harsh remark saying, if I ever get the chance, I will run you over with my car. So in the end, McGee realized that it was impossible to win Luso back no matter what. Therefore, he really decided to get rid of Luso, thinking that if he couldn't have what he loved, no one else should either, and he wanted to destroy it. It reached such an extreme level. Moreover, getting rid of Luso was not an impulsive act. It was planned and premeditated. Next, I'll introduce his plan to you, which is very meticulous. Hearing it would send chills down your spine. As the first step of the plan, he completely changed his previous clingy approach. Suddenly, she transformed into an innocent young girl, just like when she first met Luso. Moreover, she stopped contacting Luso. We mentioned at the very beginning that this young lady is actually quite skillful at managing her personality or certain aspects of her behavior. In other words, she excels at disguising and acting. So initially, Luso felt quite delighted, as if he could finally breathe a sigh of relief, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't have known how to handle this relentless pursuit. He didn't anticipate her sudden change of heart. After some time, Luso gradually observed this girl consistently posting on social media, persistently showcasing her innocent and charming side, and Luso was indeed captivated once more. Mackenzie gradually developed romantic feelings, and before long, the two of them began dating once more. In other words, there wasn't truly any significant conflict between Luso and Mackenzie. It was simply that the girl was excessively clingy, which made the boy feel as though he lacked any personal space. When the girl reverted to her original self, the boy still had a strong liking for her. However, in reality, this wasn't the truth, because this was Mackenzie's initial step in her scheme to kill Luso, her initial step in the plan. He genuinely desired to draw Luso back into his life, and once Luso came back, he intended to murder him. This decision had already been made, and he was resolute in his determination to carry it out. That's why the earlier transformation wasn't an authentic change, but rather a performance. It seems to me as though he's a highly skilled hunter, meticulously setting up an impeccable trap. He understood precisely what Luso's next actions would be. And Luso, being somewhat of a naive young man, truly fell into this elaborate trap. So on the evening of July 30th, 2022, when their relationship was exceedingly harmonious, their friends organized a social gathering. The two of them drove to attend this event, and at the gathering, they appeared to be very close, consuming a substantial amount of alcohol. The individuals who attended the party noted that there was nothing out of the ordinary about them during the event. After everyone indulged in a significant amount of drinking, they all ended up sleeping on the floor and sofas that night. At 5 in the morning, the two of them woke up and said, "Let's drive home." At that moment, a male friend of Luso's named David, who had also attended the party and fallen asleep, woke up too and said, "Oh, you guys have a car. Could you give me a ride? I'd like to catch a lift." This was outside of Mackenzie's plan, because Mackenzie originally planned to run over Luso with a car early this morning. However, he quickly thought on his feet and considered that adding David to the situation might actually help create the appearance of an accident. Crafting the illusion of an accident becomes significantly more believable if you do not include another individual. Otherwise, it appears as though you are specifically targeting the other person, correct? However, if you involve someone else, it provides the semblance of an accident, and it is genuinely challenging to decline, as refusal would raise suspicion. There is another crucial reason why Mackenzie must eliminate Luso today. It is a now or never scenario. Why? Because when they awaken, it is July 31st, and the following day is August 1st. It is the girl's 18th birthday, and she feels compelled to eliminate Luso today while she remains a minor. Her plan is meticulously detailed to this extent. She likely had intentions to kill Luso previously, but those attempts were unsuccessful. Today is her final opportunity. According to her plan, this incident would never be uncovered. However, if she acts after August 1st and it gets exposed, she could potentially face the death penalty. Therefore, she must accomplish this task by July 31st. On the way back, there were 3 people. Mackenzie, the girl, was driving the car. Luso was in the passenger seat, and his good friend Davian was in the back seat. They had all been drinking quite a bit, so when they got in the car, I guess he didn't fasten his seatbelt. However, the girl who intended to kill the others didn't want to die herself, so she fastened her seatbelt. Mackenzie drove all the way very slowly until they reached a predetermined location. On the meticulously planned route, she executed a right turn onto a very isolated and secluded road, and then she pressed the gas pedal to the floor, continuously accelerating while driving a Japanese-manufactured Camry. Although the vehicle wasn't exceptionally fast, it accelerated for nearly a full minute before ultimately crashing into the wall of a building at the end of the road. The car was completely totaled, and the driver's seat was almost entirely destroyed. Why did she opt to crash the car on this particular road? It was because the road was extremely secluded, so after the crash it wouldn't be easily discovered. Indeed, after the car crashed, it took about an hour before someone passed by and discovered the accident, then called the police. By the time the police arrived, the 2 young men in the car were already dead. The young woman, however, appeared to be disoriented but conscious and was immediately taken to the hospital for emergency treatment. It was found that her injuries were not severe, just a fractured leg, and within a month or 2 she fully recovered. Up to this point, the police had not suspected the young woman at all, believing that the young men were likely intoxicated and possibly disoriented. The car crashed into the wall, resulting in such a tragedy. Moreover, it is said that illegal drugs were found in the car, indicating that some of the people inside might have been using drugs, but there were no illegal drugs in the girl's blood. So looking at it, it can't be considered ordinary, but it falls within the reasonable range of a traffic accident. So where is the problem is that there are 2 surveillance cameras around this road, and the police found that there were no brake marks on the road from start to finish. So they retrieved the surveillance footage and saw that as soon as the car entered the small road, it started accelerating. It kept accelerating until it crashed into the wall, without braking at all. At this point, the police found it a bit strange because a normal reaction would be to at least tap the brakes. However, it's not entirely impossible, as some people might get confused between the gas pedal and the brake pedal when they're drunk, thinking they're stepping on the brake while actually pressing the gas and crashing into the wall. But when the police went to see Mackenzie's attending physician, the attending doctor said something that aroused the police's suspicion. The doctor mentioned that when the girl woke up, she seemed to be in a somewhat unclear mental state and said something like she wanted to with Luso. She might not even remember saying that, and later she also said she didn't remember saying it. However, the doctor found it quite terrifying at the time, thinking she intended to commit suicide and told the police. From this point, the police suddenly felt that this was somewhat similar to the lack of brake marks, right? Oh, she intended to commit suicide and take others with her, which also constitutes murder. Then the police became more puzzled. Then they wanted to find this girl again, and discovered that while she was still in the hospital and not fully recovered, she had already started posting on Douyin frequently, appearing very happy, as if she had no psychological trauma at all. It seemed like she didn't remember anything about the incident, as she was attending concerts in a wheelchair, showing no signs of sadness. Quite the opposite, she seemed happy. Then at Russo's house, they found records of phone calls where this girl had previously threatened Russo. It was not long after the 2 individuals had reconciled that this unfortunate accident transpired, leading the police to become increasingly suspicious. Ultimately, 3 months following the incident, in the month of November, the police proceeded to arrest the girl Mackenzie. The fact that the police went ahead to arrest her indicates that they indeed possessed evidence proving that she was responsible for the murder of the 2 people. However, Mackenzie consistently maintained that she had no recollection of the events preceding and following the accident. He does not recall what transpired, and he entirely refutes having any motive for committing murder. So, what constitutes the most direct piece of evidence in this particular case? Why did the police have the audacity to arrest him and formally accuse him of murder? It's those 2 surveillance videos I mentioned earlier. I only discussed one of them before, which captured the vehicle persistently accelerating and ultimately crashing into a wall. However, the most critical one is the other surveillance video, which documented the car turning onto this road. Although the footage is brief, it is exceedingly important. It was because it recorded the process of the car turning from the main road onto this road. And what was the issue with this process? The police discovered that the car entered this road in a manner that strictly followed traffic rules. It used the turn signal and then smoothly entered the road, but once it was on this road, it started to accelerate continuously. This cannot be explained by the mental state at the time, meaning if the person was out of control or lacked the ability to act. It should have been that after leaving his friend's house, he drove the car in a somewhat erratic manner, possibly speeding up, slowing down, or even hitting the road or stopping. However, all the surveillance footage shows that he was strictly following traffic rules, driving more smoothly than a typical person. But once he turned onto the small road, his behavior suddenly became abnormal, indicating that he was fully conscious before making that turn, assuming he was in a clear state of mind. So this constitutes murder because he was aware of the potential consequences. It's possible that he intended to commit suicide and take his boyfriend along with him. Regardless of whether you intend to commit suicide, it remains murder. There is also a possibility that he suddenly experienced a split personality. After turning onto that road, it seemed as though he was possessed, transforming into another personality, a personality desiring to commit suicide or kill. However, regardless of a split personality, the law holds the person accountable. No matter how you split, whichever personality commits the crime, it remains your crime, and your body bears the consequences. Therefore, we won't consider the situation of personality disorder. There are many classic cases of crimes related to personality disorders, which we can introduce to everyone if there's an opportunity. Additionally, the fact that this girl kept posting on TikTok and showing off during her hospital stay is also a contributing factor. Ultimately, what had a fatal impact on convicting this girl was that she was suddenly convicted. In reality, this young woman's mother came forward to provide testimony, earnestly striving to defend her daughter by asserting that she couldn't have possibly committed the murder of her boyfriend. Why, you might wonder? Because this girl harbored an extraordinary love for her boyfriend. To what extent, you ask? Whatever cuisine the boy preferred, from that day onward she would consume only that, for several consecutive months without any variation. She wore the attire he favored each and every single day. For 4 or 5 months, she wore the same outfit without changing. Whatever song the boy liked, she listened to it every day with her headphones for 4 or 5 months without changing. That's how it was. Her mother said, "Look, she loves this boy so much, how could she possibly kill him?" But this statement made the judge think, it's you can't escape, suggesting that the girl must have a strong obsession, not a normal psychological state. However, in her mother's view, this was normal, a display of love. This indicates that the girl has the ability to make such a judgment and handle the situation in such an extreme manner. It might be related to her mother and some hereditary factors. Ultimately, in August of last year, 2023, the judge determined that the defendant's criminal facts were clear and the evidence was conclusive. She was sentenced to 2 terms of 15 years to life imprisonment. This sentence is not fixed as life imprisonment or 15 years. It's 15 years to life because she killed 2 people, so it's 2 crimes being punished together. Sentenced to life imprisonment with no possibility of parole for a period of 15 years. This is an extremely severe punishment, considered quite heavy for juvenile crimes, but from an adult perspective, if she had indeed committed the crime after August 1st, it would undoubtedly be classified as first-degree murder, which carries a life sentence or the death penalty. In the state of Ohio, where she resides, the death penalty is administered by injection. This girl is intelligent to the extent that after she was apprehended, she realized she might be convicted. At that time, the judge provided her with a choice, stating she could opt to be sentenced by the judge or by a jury. He chose the judge. Why? He knew the judge would strictly follow the law, and as a minor, that meant a lighter sentence. With a jury, emotions could sway the decision, and if they all agreed he should be sentenced, he might face the death penalty. There are cases where minors have been sentenced to death. We'll review this in the future. He can't be paroled for 15 years. The earliest they can be released is at 34 years old, showing how young they are. After serving 15 years, they will still only be 34, which means there is significant potential for rehabilitation. However, it's a life sentence, and even if they are paroled, they will likely remain under parole conditions indefinitely. The conviction won't be erased, meaning they won't be able to freely move about as if they had no criminal record. It's unlikely that they will ever be free from police supervision. This was a case that shocked the entire United States last year, involving a minor and a female offender. A meticulously organized businessman nearly managed to escape, but I genuinely believe he might have truly lost his memory regarding the incident. Under such intense and overwhelming shock, he indeed suffered quite severely during that period. He just protected himself well, so it didn't result in too severe consequences. However, under such conditions, losing memory is considered a normal phenomenon. But the fact that he chose to do this the day before his birthday really sends chills down your spine, doesn't it? So, such a verdict seems reasonable. Well, today I've introduced you to a very famous restroom crime case, and I hope such things won't happen again in the future. I also hope everyone can respect the people around you, giving them a little time and space. Okay, that's all for today. See you next time. Bye-bye.